There's a billion, right?
Pay Sidney Crosby to marry me.
I'd buy a horse with gold teeth and an iced out suit of armor.
I'd buy the Union Center with that money.
To me, what's standing behind me is a hospital. Travel the world and never stop, right?
Invest in clean energy. Make people's dreams come true.
World equality, world hunger, health.
My wife had gone through breast cancer about 5 years ago, and I'd love to see a cure in our lifetime.
After I swam in it, I think I would give it away to charity. Yeah.
I can't fathom, and that's unbelievable.
Oh my God. Oh, wow.
I have a billion reasons why you should care about a canceled gas plant. I mean, a silly little gas plant. Who knows what that is? But nonetheless, it's costing you an awful lot of money. And we talk about it every single day here on Sun News Network because we happen to think it's an incredibly important story that needs to be resolved. But a lot of people don't even know about it. I've talked to a lot of people who know all about Rob Ford, but they don't know about a $1 billion gas plant that was scrapped for political reasons. And they should, because it involves a possible crime, cover-up, and it's all coming out of your pocket. So our next guest, Antonino, joins us now because you were having the same kinds of frustrations as me talking about it and everyone looking at you with a blank stare. So you're actually doing something about it.
Yes, for the last few months I've been talking to friends, family, people on the street.
You're not a political guy.
Not
you're
at all.
Just average, everyday, normal working guy.
I'm a professional engineer.
Okay, there you go.
That's what I do for a living, and I was just having difficulty. Well, I've been following the issue since the election in 2011. And having seen it go from 40 million to 1.12 billion was a little bit shocking. But when you talk to people, I think they have difficulty fathoming how much $1 billion actually is. We know what 100,000 is, you know, $1 million.
We know what $16 costs for an orange juice and how that can get you into trouble.
And 10 million, 100 million, I think people start to lose it, but $1 billion, and we're actually, we round down. It's 1.1, and I'm just talking about the billion. So I tried to think of how could I represent it in some way for people so that they could start to fathom the size of this, and that was when I came up with the idea of printing it, printing the money.
So you literally printed $1 billion and you had it shipped to downtown Toronto and had it dropped off, which I'm sure caught a few people's attention. What did you hear on the street? What was the reaction?
Well, first was, is that $1 billion? Because that was one of the first questions is, have you seen $1 billion before? And the answer is always no. And then it was, what would you do with $1 billion? To kind of help people try to understand what it would actually, what it actually represents. And then some people, like for myself, coming from Vaughan, we've been trying for 10 years to get a hospital. So the billion to me is a hospital. Which is a massive undertaking, and for us it's now gone. It's always been funding, which has been the issue in Vaughan. But for others, it's the extension of a subway.
It is transportation. It is lower energy costs. It is MRIs. It is reducing wait times. It is getting medication for people who apparently can't get life-saving medication because it's not covered under hydro. I mean, or under, OHIP. I mean, $1 billion to me is so many things, and in this case, it is pure scandal.
It's so many things for so many people, and for me, it becomes very personal because most of the people we would interview, they were always talking about how they could help somebody with the $1 billion. But in this particular case, it's gone and it helped nobody. And for me, it's scandalous because it wasn't a mistake, right? E-health, gun registry. Yeah,
the only problem you did with this is not put the other $1 billion beside it from the e-health scandal.
Exactly.
Another wasted $1 billion.
It would be more skids, more transportation, more space at Dundas Square to get people's reaction. But then we go to the point of then we say, we realize this money's gone. Like it's gone. And nobody knows where it is. And nobody seems to be accountable. And all we hear from our Liberal leader right now is I don't know anything about it appears. But
do you care if anyone pays a price?
Pays a price for.
Do you care if anyone pays a price? Do you think that someone should pay a price?
They need to be accountable, because when I did this, I firm believer in trust, especially government trust, because for us there is no government if there's no trust, and for this, no government should be allowed to get away with something like this. I don't care if it's a Liberal, Conservative, NDP. It just happens at this point, it was the Liberal government that did this, and they need to be accountable for it.
So what did you hear on the streets? What was the reaction? Not just when people got over the novelty of seeing that kind of, prop, but what was the reaction once they've kind of got their head around it?
Shock. Shock. Because first they don't seem to know anything about it, and then when they realized what had actually happened, and they didn't seem to have any say in how it was going to be spent, was shock and disbelief. Because people have asked me, are people mad? And I don't think the average Ontarian is at the point of being mad yet. They're still in disbelief and shock that something like this could actually happen.
Yeah, I don't think people would actually understand it unless you went up, told them to give you the money in the pocket, or actually just stuck your hand in their pocket and took all the money out and said, see ya. They would say, hold on a second, what are you doing? That's my $20.
That's my money, yes.
Well, that's your money too.
But right now they're not perceiving the fact that it's their money. And that's where I came up with the campaign of Your Billion, because this is your money. This is everybody's money.
So what's your hope with this campaign? What are you planning on doing with it? And how has been a reaction so far?
So the campaign was awareness,
right?
To get the message out, but get the message out with some physical representation instead of just hearing a number, to actually see something, and then begin the conversation and ask the questions. Where did the money go? Why was it pegged at 40 million and it became 1.12 billion? How can we trust a government that would say 40 million and end up spending $1.12 billion when there's so many things in this province that we need every day for everybody? And so really it's now go to the next step of discuss it, show the video to your friends, family, neighbors, so that they can be aware of how much money was actually wasted. And then personally, we need to go to an election. We need the public to speak up on this particular issue.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously having your say. Have you ever been politically active? Have you ever done anything like this before? I mean, because I look at this as activism, where you're actually doing something that means something, and trying to actually get a message out to people.
I've never done anything at this scale before. I have been active at the municipal level, politics-wise, in my neighborhood, in Vaughan. During the last election in 2010, I ran a campaign called Time for Change Vaughan, because you may remember about 3-4 years ago, Vaughan kept ending up in the news with regards to mayors suing the city, cities suing mayors, councillors fighting, infighting. And as a resident, and it was affecting my community, I kind of stood up and basically said no and galvanized the community to remove some councillors.
Do you get the sense, though, even being involved, because I'm starting to see small grassroots popping up across Canada. They're small, but they're angry. They're angry that their government is not being held to account. They're angry that their life is becoming more expensive. They're getting angry that people are getting away with things. And you're obviously just another part of this. Do you get the sense that there is an anger, and not just in Toronto, not just in Ontario, but do you get a sense that there's anger across this country with our politicians?
Absolutely. I mentioned to many people that I'm just an average person in Ontario. And if I'm starting to feel angry, frustrated, disbelief about a subject, it's likely that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of similar liked people thinking the same way.
Yeah.
Like what happened in Vaughan in 2010. I was just one of thousands of people that were just getting fed up. I think the same is happening here. There's grassroots.
A sense of cynicism in politics today.
There is, and I'm going to bring my wife up with regards to that. Right? Is she's politically aware, but doesn't like to get involved. And when she saw the video, because usually when she sees me do these kinds of things, she's like, "Oh, Anthony, not again." But she goes, "Oh my goodness, that's very well done. Every resident of Ontario needs to see this video."
They do. And hey, look, at the end of the day, if it doesn't bother anyone, fine. But I think it's good to get the education out there. I'm glad you're doing it, which you're now going to do another one, correct?
Well, it keeps coming up. Everyone wants to see the money. They want to see the money. Let's see it.
So what's focus on the second one?
What the focus on the second one is, I want to put it in situations where it will represent what we lost.
Right.
So in Vaughan,
it's an awful lot of coffee. I think, wasn't it the Energy Minister, Mr. Torelli, who said, it's just every Ontarian will have to pay $2 for coffee. That's a lot of coffee.
I was insulted, actually, by that comment, because you could take a different perspective, and it's hundreds of thousands of people could go tax-free.
Sure, yeah.
For years.
Sure.
Right?
Interesting. And I want to thank you so much for coming in. How do people get to see your video?
they go to yourbillion.ca and it will route you immediately to the YouTube video.
All right, we'll post this one online. We'll get it out there and hopefully keep in touch with us. We'll see how the second one goes. Appreciate it. His name's Anthony Nero, just an average, everyday guy who's fed up, getting involved, and trying to make a difference. It only takes one person, and it can make a difference.